So here's a thought you might be saying or thinking. You've been doing the work, you've been showing up for your practice, pulling your cards, paying attention to the signs and journaling, trying to trust your path. But then something hard happens anyway, again, and you think, shouldn't this be getting easier by now? If I'm really growing, if I'm really on the right path, why does life keep throwing things at me? I hear this a lot, and I felt it myself. That quiet frustration of doing everything right, spiritually speaking, but still finding yourself in the middle of something hard. And today, I really want to offer you a different way to look at what those hard moments actually are. And more importantly, I want to give you something practical, a set of real tools you can reach for the next time a test arrives. Because it will arrive. And when it does, I want you to feel equipped rather than blindsided. Because the tests don't stop when you wake up, but the way you move through them changes completely. Welcome to Oracle Mornings, your daily ritual for inner connection and soulful insight. Each morning, we draw a card together to inspire your day with intention, reflection, and a touch of magic. Whether you're just beginning your spiritual journey or simply seeking a moment of peace, you're in the right place. So take a breath, open your heart, and let's begin. So what do we mean by a spiritual test anyway? Let's just name that what we're talking about, because not every hard thing is a spiritual test, and I think it's worth making that distinction for sure. A spiritual test is like a situation or a pattern, a challenge that keeps arriving specifically in the areas where you've been doing the most growth. It's a relationship issue that resurfaces right after you've done deep work on your boundaries, or the financial fear that shows up right when you're learning to trust. It's that person who triggers you most, appearing right when you thought you've healed that wound. And if you notice your challenges seem to cluster around exactly the areas where you've been growing, it's not just a coincidence, and it's more like a spiritual test. And the fact that it's showing up is actually evidence that growth is happening, and not evidence that it isn't. A spiritual test is different than a random hardship, because random hardships, they really just happen, and it's part of being a human living in this world. Where a spiritual test has the quality of a precision to it. It arrives in exactly the right place to show you what's still unfinished. So one way to think of this is like a test at school doesn't arrive to punish you. It arrives to show you what you've learned and what still needs work. A spiritual test operates the same way. It's not the universe punishing you for something. It's the universe showing you where your next layer of growth happens, even within that same growth subject, you could say. So you might be wondering why the tests don't stop and why that's actually good news. Here's the honest answer. The path does not get easier. You get more capable. And because you get more capable, the path starts asking more of you. The tests get more refined, more specific, and more precisely targeted at exactly what you're ready to work on next. And while that could sound discouraging, I want to offer you a reframe. The fact that life keeps testing you isn't a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're alive and you're growing. The tests stop when the growth stops. And I don't think that's what any of us actually want. So early in a spiritual awakening, tests tend to be about big external things like identity, relationships, jobs, the structures of the life you've built before you, so to speak, woke up. And as you grow, the tests get more internal, more subtle. They start to ask things like, can you stay in your peace when someone challenges you? Can you maintain your frequency when everything around you is chaotic? Can you trust the path when you can't see where it's going? The outer tests reflect the inner work. And as the inner work deepens, the tests get quieter and even more precise. That's actually progress, even when it doesn't feel like it. So, what are some of the most common spiritual tests that we see? Let me name a few because I think recognition is a very helpful tool. When you can name what's happening, you can work with it instead of just suffering through it. And isn't that what we all want? First is the patience test. Something you've been working toward is taking longer than you expected. The timing isn't yours, and the test is whether you can stay in trust while you wait, or whether fear and doubt will pull you off the course. Patience tests are among the most common on the spiritual path because so much of the work is about learning to trust a process you can't control or speed up. The second is the boundary test. Right after you've done work on your boundaries, set a new one, learn to say no, or started protecting your own energy. That's when someone or something arrives to push directly on that boundary to see if it holds. And this one can feel deeply frustrating. Like, I just did the work. Why am I being tested immediately? But that's exactly how it works. The boundary isn't real until it's tested so that you can prove to yourself that you have made the change in your life. The third one is the old pattern test. A situation arrives that looks almost identical to something you thought you've healed. An old relationship dynamic, an old fear, an old way of responding. And the test is whether you respond the way you used to or whether something has genuinely shifted. If you find yourself in a situation that feels uncomfortably familiar, then pay attention. The universe is never trying to be cruel. It's just asking, have you actually changed? Go ahead and show me. Number 4, the trust test. Let's say something falls apart that you thought was aligned. A plan that seemed right now stops working. One door closes. And the test is whether you can stay in trust that something better is being cleared for or whether you collapse into fear. True tests are often the hardest because they ask you to hold on to a bigger picture when the immediate picture looks bad. But they're also the ones that build the deepest faith. I see this a lot with finances with people when things get a little rocky and a little hard. It's so difficult to trust that things can somehow get better. But if, again, looking back at your life where you've been in similar situations, whether it's financial or otherwise, you can see that the change was important for what was to come. The last one is the worthiness test. When an opportunity arrives, maybe it's something you've been wanting or something that would require you to step up and actually claim it, suddenly every voice of self-doubt shows up alongside it. The test is whether you let the doubt talk you out of what's actually meant for you. The worthiness tests often arrive in the form of good things, not hard things, which makes them easy to miss. So watch for that moment when something good arrives and your first response happens to be fear. So I'd love to move into what to do when a test actually arrives, because knowing that they're part of the path is one thing, but you want to know what to do when that happens so that you can keep up with your growth and keep moving forward. The first tool would be to name it out loud. That moment you suspect you're in a test, say it out loud or in your journal. Say, I think I'm being tested right now. Something about this feels like a threshold. And just naming it can shift your relationship to the actual experience. So you move from victim of the situation to a student of it. And the naming is super powerful. It reminds you that you have a perspective on this moment, that you're not just inside it, you can actually observe it. The second tool is ask the right question. Most of us tend to ask, why is this happening to me when something hard arrives? The more useful question would be, what is this asking me to practice? Is it patience, a boundary, trust, compassion? When you can name the skill the test is asking for, then you can bring that skill intentionally rather than just reacting. So maybe it's, what is this asking me to practice? Write that question down somewhere and you'll see. The third tool would be to pull an oracle card, which, as you know, is my favorite. When you're in the middle of a test, things might feel chaotic or heavy. Pulling a card is a super fast way to return to your own inner guidance. It shifts you out of the reactive, fearful mind and into the receptive, trusting part of yourself. It reminds you that you are there to be in the experience and to learn from it. And there's a bigger intelligence at work that you have access to. And your oracle deck is not just a tool for good days, it's also a tool for the hard ones. And I find especially the hard ones because it always gives you something to reflect back on. The next tool would be to look for what's being cleared. If something falls away during a test, like a plan, a vision, a relationship, or even a version of yourself, you can ask yourself, what is being cleared to make room? This reframe doesn't minimize the loss, but it opens a window in a moment that can feel very closed. So what is this making space for? What has it cleared so that I can bring in something different? Everything that leaves your life during a period of growth is making space for something that's more aligned. That doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it is worth asking the question. And it is definitely one of my favorites to help me shift my mindset in the moment because it gives me something to look forward to. It's like, oh, this is hard that this is falling out of my life now, but what does it mean for what's next? And the last tool I have for you is return to your baseline practice. When you're in a test, the temptation can often be to abandon your practice because you're busy, you're stressed, it all feels pointless when life is hard. But I really encourage you to do the opposite. Your practice is your anchor. It's the thing that keeps you tethered to yourself when everything around you might feel a little turbulent. Even if it's for 5 minutes, even if it's one oracle card, keep that practice going. The test is the most powerful when it cuts you off from your own inner resource, so don't let it. Your practice is exactly what you need most when things get hard. And with that, let's go ahead and move into the card reading for the day. Today I pulled a card from the Medicine Woman Oracle deck by Catherine Maillard. And the card that I pulled is called The Heart's Wisdom. Go ahead, take a deep breath, and arrive here in your space. The Heart's Wisdom. Listen to the call of your heart, your guide in love. I envelop you in the gentleness of my love and spread a healing balm over your heart so you may find once again the courage to love. Ancestral traditions show that the heart is the center of profound wisdom. The Cherokee language has a term for it, Shante Ishta, or the one and only eye of the heart. Among the Omaha people of North America, it is said, ask from the heart and you will be answered from the heart. Women are the keepers of this cup or grail, inspired by the unconditional love of Mother Earth, Grandfather Sun, and Grandmother Moon. Far deeper than a romantic trifle, the heart is our ultimate recourse for a vibrant life. Today, we need to make the choice of love. Remember your true nature. Love is a precious treasure nestled in the depths of your heart that you may have buried or covered in armor through the hardships you have encountered along the way. Remember, there is no rose without thorns, yet true love is your only way, the song of your heart, your guide. The time has come once again to experience love and become loving in your relationship with your partner, loved ones, or spirituality. There are many ways to open the doors of love, such as empathy, compassion, and kindness, to bring it into ourselves. Love is an inner revolution. It begins with loving yourself. Love is like a flower that blooms under a gentle daily light of kindness and exhales its perfume into its surroundings. Go ahead and take a moment to reflect on this message. A simple but profound message. Love starts with you and your heart. In the opening line, this card mentions that they want to spread a healing balm over your heart so you may find once again the courage to love. And I'd love to just take a moment with this phrase, the courage to love, because it speaks to something that happens during these spiritual tests. And it's when life keeps asking hard things of us and the tests keep arriving, we can have a tendency to armor up and protect ourselves. We might pull back, stop being as open as we once were, because openness has felt costly in the past. But the card names it directly. It says that love is a precious treasure nestled in the depths of your heart that you may have buried or covered in armor through the hardships you have encountered. And that's what tests do when we move through them without the tools. They don't just challenge us, but over time they can close us off to that love. So I want to take from this card, in the context of everything we've talked about today, is that every spiritual test at its deepest level is asking you the same question. And that's, will you respond from love or from fear? And that is something that if you can catch it in the moment is really powerful. So if you're in a situation or one of these tests and it's triggering you, ask yourself, am I going to respond from love or from fear? Will you stay open or will you armor up? Will you trust or will you contract? And that patience test asks, can you love the process even when it's slow? The boundary test asked, can you love yourself enough to hold the line? And the trust test asks, can you love the bigger picture even when the immediate picture looks wrong? And yes, that is my dog barking in the background as I record outside today. And so back to this, the worthiness test asks, can you love yourself enough to receive what's actually meant for you? And I love that. I think so many of us struggle with worthiness, but we are so worthy of the things that are meant for us. And then the card also mentioned, love is a thread running through all of it, which is such a great reminder that no matter how many tests have arrived, no matter how much armor you may have built up over the years or you've closed off, the love is still there. It's just buried in the depths of your heart and it's waiting to come back out. So when the card closes with love is an inner revolution, it begins with loving yourself. That is the practice, not just moving through the tests, but moving through them with as much self-compassion and openness as you can. Make sure you tend to yourself with gentleness so that the love stays alive rather than armoring over. That is the inner revolution, and it all starts with you. So whatever test you're currently in, whatever the path is asking of you right now, the card is a great message that you are being held and you are not alone in it. and the courage you need is already inside of you. So I'd love to leave you with 3 questions today that you can reflect on or journal on. Number 1, is there a challenge in your life right now that has the quality of a spiritual test? Something arriving precisely in the area where you've been growing? Can you name what it might be asking you to practice? Number 2, the card spoke today about armor we build over our hearts through the hardships we encounter. Is there anywhere in your life where you've armored up and where you've become more closed or more guarded? What would it feel like to soften that just a little? Number 3, which of the 5 tools we talked about today feels most useful for where you're at right now? And make sure you name it specifically, and name one moment this week where you could actually use it. Not just in theory, but actually in practice. So the bad news is the tests don't necessarily stop. But the good news is you get better at moving through them. And every single one is building something in you that couldn't be built any other way. Your whole life has led you to this moment. You haven't done any of it wrong. You are where you're meant to be, and this growth is absolutely for you. And if today's episode resonated and you feel like you might be in the beginning or the middle of a spiritual awakening, or just on the edge of one, I have a free guide for you called The 5 Signs You're Beginning a Spiritual Awakening. You can grab that at oraclemornings.com/awakening. And if someone in your life is in the middle of something like this right now and could use a different perspective on what they're going through, go ahead and share this episode with them. Sometimes just having the language for something changes everything. So make sure you keep going. You're more capable than you know. And take care. We'll talk again soon. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Oracle Mornings. Please take a moment and follow the show so you never miss an episode. Simply open the app you listen to podcasts on, such as Apple Podcasts, and hit the follow button. Your support means the world, and I'm so grateful that you choose to spend part of your day with me. And remember, you are a miracle.